we're really thinking about the people of Ukraine. From the bankless community, our heart goes out to everyone impacted by what's going on. Hey Bankless Nation, this is the 4th week of February. It's time for the weekly roll-up. David, I feel like we've got a bit of a somber episode today. Not a lot of good news right now. And I'm not talking about the markets. I'm talking about the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And I think at the top of this episode, David, we should just spare a moment and think about our Ukrainian brothers and sisters, our friends, those in the crypto space, those outside it, because they're going through a really difficult time, to say the least. And I feel heartbroken at the situation. I know you do as well. And a lot of us are looking at this our screens and the images that are coming across, and we're just feeling helpless at this moment. We're going to talk about the Ukraine invasion and some of the issues around that, and how it affects markets, how it's affecting crypto, how it's affecting the world. But I want to start the episode and just set the tone. We're really thinking about the people of Ukraine. From the bankless community, our heart goes out to everyone impacted by what's going on.
There's one thing that I learned during COVID is that during big times of crises, the distances and connections between humans just collapse. And that's kind of the cool thing of the internet these days, is that we actually get to see what's going on everywhere, for good, for better or for worse. So there's a lot of shit out there. And we have this one rogue guy who's not really aligned with the rest of us, taking his ego across borders. And now we are going to talk about it.
It very much does feel like it's happening in our backyard because the world is so much smaller and the internet has brought us together. When I see Reddit users and Twitter, people on Twitter that I know posting things from the Ukraine, I don't see another nationality. I see someone in my neighborhood, on my block, and a part of my community. And so I do think maybe that is hopefully part of the bright side of all of this. Is the world is a lot smaller. We have instant communication. The borders, the national borders, aren't as strong, and the world is, in the best of times, one big family. So this feels like it's happening to our friends and family members right now. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about markets. We're going to talk about all of the regular things we do talk about, but obviously with the undertone that even when we're talking about prices, there are things, people are losing lives right now. When price goes down, you're losing money, but people are actually losing their life right now. And that is far more serious, obviously. So going into this episode with a lot of gravity on that, but we are going to talk about these things. We're also going to talk about Canada freezing bank accounts and where that leads. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We started the story last week. We're going to continue that story. We also, crypto found out who the DAO Hacker is.
Allegedly?
That's a story that's emerging.
DAO
Hacker, all the way from 2017. Also, there's some good news mixed in, all right? So, between the heavy issues, there's some good news for crypto, some other things that we're going to be talking about. I guess one piece of good news, a little bit of good news, is we have a new way to go bankless with the Ledger wallet. This is an announcement from our friends at Ledger. Feels like we need bankless money systems now more than ever. They are issuing a crypto life debit card. All right. So you can load this up directly from your Ledger wallet, your bankless Ledger wallet. You can join the wait list. I'm on the wait list. I think you should be too. If you don't have a Ledger hardware wallet, you probably should have one of those as we enter the 2020s, and connect this debit card to it, and it becomes much more powerful. So go ahead and check that out. Get on the wait list. I'm going to be on the wait list. Can't wait for this to come out. David, let's get to the markets, man. Markets. We're going to talk about price. As I said, price is not the most important thing that's going on in the world today, but it is something that we have to talk about because it is Market Monday, and prices are down a bit. Why don't you talk about Bitcoin for us today?
Yeah, Bitcoin started the week at about $42,000, and it hit a low last night, Wednesday night, Thursday morning at 34,500. So really just plummeted through that $40,000 level. Since the low it hit last night as a result of the news that indeed Russia has begun the bombing of Ukraine, we've resurged from the bottom of 34.5 up to 37.2. So a little bounce off the bottom there, but overall down about 15% on the week.
As you would expect, and of course, all of this is driven by the Putin war on Ukraine that's going on right now. A lot of liquidations, of course, coming in too. So this is a headline: crypto sees 242 million in liquidations within hours amid Russia-Ukraine crisis. Whenever we see a sharp price drop like this, we always see liquidations. So this is somewhat to be expected. You have any thoughts on this in particular, David?
Yeah. It wasn't just generalized. I think this is talking about centralized finance liquidations, but there's also DeFi liquidations as well. But broadly, the markets are kind of in this weird spot where there's been so much selling. We've had 3 months of selling, not just in crypto, but also with traditional stock markets as well. So like, damn, when does the selling stop?
Right. And of course, the uncertainty of what's going on right now certainly compounds to that, compounds to the market jitters and the down plunges. What are we seeing with ETH? More of the same?
Yeah, Ether started the week at $3,000, hit a low last night of $2,350, which is marginally higher, a little bit higher than like the lows it printed about a month or so ago, a little bit more than a month. And then like Bitcoin, it has actually resurged since I actually wrote my notes. I wrote the notes about an hour ago. That was at 2,450, but now we're at 2,560. So down again about 15% on the week. Again, bouncing off of the liquidation lows that happened just last night.
A lot of liquidations as well below 2100. We could see this in DeFi markets as well. Here's a headline: ETH market faces $500 million worth of liquidations if the price drops below 2100. How can we see that? Where are these numbers coming from, David?
Yeah, I believe this is triggered by a very significant maker vault, which will be the impetus for, in theory, in the current state, if no positions get covered, that if we dropped below $2,100, there would be $500 million worth of Ether that would go up for auction, and could potentially cause a cascading liquidations, and so that's bad. The beautiful thing about DeFi and transparency is that we can see that, and so as we get closer and closer to that 2,100 price, if we do end up going there, things will need to be covered, or else we will see a significant amount of Ether sold on the markets to cover the liquidations.
This reminds me of chasing some of those liquidations back in March of 2020 when we first heard about sort of the pandemic news and when the markets were grappling with all of that. Something similar going on here. What about the S&P 500? We don't usually talk about the traditional finance market, but they're so correlated these days. Bitcoin is at an all-time high correlation with the S&P 500, and of course, so is Ether. So are many of the crypto assets. They're all in the risk-on category. So what's happening with the S&P right now?
Yeah, I think if you just zoom out and go back for 3 months, we've had 3 months of down prices. At the start of the year, but right around January 1st or 2nd was the high for the S&P at 480 on this index. I'm not sure how standard this index is that we're looking at, but this is a tracker of the S&P. 480 was where we are. We hit a low of 410, which is, I think, down about 15%, which is a big move for the S&P. This is the aggregate stock market. Like basically all equities when we lost 15% of value inside of 3 months. And like if you zoom out, Ryan, go out to like the 5-year or something, you can see like it's the biggest down move since COVID, basically. Since COVID, it's just been up and to the right. And now we're back a little bit, about almost a year in prices, back to like April and May of 2021 to where we were at these prices. This is the first down move since the March liquidations of 2000 and what year was that? 2020.
I saw this graph too. So this is a chart of major market shock events. Many of these are wars or violent actions of some kind. So one is September 11th, so 9/11, 2001. The S&P drawdown in the 1 day was about 5% for that, and the total drawdown was about 11.6%. That took 11 days to bottom and 31 days to recover. Another example, I suppose, is the Pearl Harbor attack was 1 day down 3.8%, total drawdown of about 20%. It took 143 days to bottom. Of course, that was a much more protracted war.
Yeah, that was a bigger war.
Yeah, that was a very big deal.
Big one.
And then it took 307 days to recover. And there are all sorts of other events you can see how these market shocks really impact. Some of them bounce back faster than others. And it just depends really what happens from here on out, which we're going to try to analyze a little bit. Here's some other wars, Dave. Why don't you talk about this one?
Yeah, this is a graph of 5 different wars: Vietnam, the Gulf War, the Afghanistan War, Iraq, and Crimean War. Except for the case of the Afghanistan War, even in the Afghanistan War, basically it's lining up when the invasion actually happened and then what the markets did afterwards. And every single war, it was up afterwards. Afghanistan, it was up for a little bit, but then it was down a year or two later, or no. A year or two later. But every single other market, it's showing that when the invasion happens, markets go down because they don't like uncertainty. But generally, it's been up and to the right. At least, I don't know, maybe these are cherry picked. I did not pick these. I just saw these on Twitter. But the thing is saying is the invasion itself is usually around the bottom.
I think the market tends to overshoot things is obviously one of the lessons, and people are definitely panicking as they grapple and try to figure out what to do from here.
Right. So if you are panicking right now, take into account that the market might have already made the move, or at least a healthy chunk of it already.
At least the events that have played out so far have
with the events that we know so far, yes.
At this point been priced in, right? Yeah. So now it's a matter of forecasting what happens in the future here. And David, I know we were going to save this for news originally, but we may as well include it before we get to the rest of the market items. Let's just talk about the Russian invading Ukraine incident, because this is going to affect not only crypto for a while, it's going to affect the entire world. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to talk about crypto without having some context here. So I feel like today we really woke up in a different world. Things have changed. Okay, it's almost a time to readjust. But we also have to recalibrate and figure out what the hell is going on. So as we get into this, I would just say to Bankless listeners, neither David nor myself are geopolitical experts, all right? We could talk about crypto politics and crypto systems all day long and are happy to do that. Now we're getting into a space where we are synthesizing things and
which I think we're good at
to distill them, which we definitely have some strengths at. So we may not get everything 100% correct, and we don't view us as experts in the space. We're trying to give you enough information to be dangerous and to understand how that affects the world, your life, and crypto writ large. So let's talk about this, David. What's just happened? The news.
Yeah, and a significant amount of our sources with regards to this comes to Kyla Scanlon and Twitter. If you guys listened to our episode with Kyla, she did a great breakdown of so many different things. A lot of it had to do with the European energy crisis and Putin's amassing of troops at the border around Ukraine. And that was 3-ish weeks ago, Ryan, that we released that episode. So definitely, if you want some recap, I guess already outdated recap, still helpful though. The episode
I would just tune into her latest things too.
Yeah,
she's going to put out some content around that, so we'll include some links to her blog.
So last night we got word that Russia had indeed begun bombing Ukraine and actually crossing over the border. We wake up this morning to an advisor to Ukraine's president saying about 40 people had been killed so far in the Russian attack on the country. Actually, when I woke up and saw that number, I was like, wow, that is a lot lower than I expected it to be. The other issue is, and we'll talk about this, the other issue is that actually we just don't, there's a massive fog of war going on with Ukraine. We actually just don't know what's going on inside of Ukraine, and that is strategic. That is specifically caused by Russia's disinformation and obfuscation campaign. But bombs, artilleries, missiles have all been reported. Videos are being shared on Twitter about this. Airports have been bombed and now seized by the Russian military. And really, what the impetus for this, the playbook comes right out of World War II, where in Poland and Germany invaded Poland as a result of Poland allegedly attacking a German radio tower. And turns out it was completely fabricated by the Germans as an excuse to go into Poland. this is the exact same playbook that Putin is using with Russia, where there's this Donbass region, which is a small region in eastern Ukraine that's right next to the Russian border, and it has probably the most amount of pro-Russia support in all of Ukraine. And all of Ukraine is very much, they all wanted to be independent from Russia. So Ukraine as a country wants independence from Russia, but there's this very small region right next to Russia that has pro-Russia separatists. And Putin has been making the claim that these separatists are being oppressed by Ukraine, that there's a Holocaust going on. He talked about how the Jewish president of Ukraine is a Nazi because he's oppressing these pro-Russia separatists in Donbass, basically as an excuse to invade. The thing is, the Donbass region is very, very small, and it's just, right there, just to the right, very, very, and that's not even all of the Donbass region is pro-Russia, just like the corners of it that are very close to Russia. And so Russia has invaded Ukraine on the precipice of, or on the presumption of freeing these people. But the thing is, like, Putin has bombed all of Ukraine. Like I think if
we're straight to Kiev already, right?
Yeah, we're the Russian forces have. You can see these little red indication marks as where they've been reported as bombs. It's universally around all of Ukraine. So while the verbiage, the wordage out of Putin in Russia is that they want to free the pro Russia separatists, they have actually straight up bombed the entire country in strategic points, airports, subway stations, and they are now actually surrounding the capital of Kiev. This is a picture of the capital of Kiev which has smoke pouring out of it. There's a number of these photos all around.
Did you see this one, David? I saw this from Reddit earlier this morning. This is from Kiev.
A fleet of military helicopters flying over, yeah.
Looks like it's taken from someone's balcony and gives you kind of the citizen view of what's going on.
Yeah, there's a thread that has all of these types of videos that we're able to actually get out into the internet sphere from Ukraine. That we'll put a link to that in the show notes. There's literally just too many of them to share, but they're a collection of missiles, destroyed helicopters, tanks, convoys, basically everything that you would expect to see in a war. So there's a link. Yeah, look at lots of destruction. So that's sick. Okay, so moving into, and so the worry here is Russia just claiming parts of Ukraine and then eventually just kind of folding it into all of Ukraine? Or this is a text from Alexei Navalny, who says, should we perhaps replace Ukraine in Putin's speeches with Kazakhstan, with Belarus, with Baltic countries, with Azerbaijan, with Uzbekistan, maybe Finland? He proposes this as a thought experiment. Well, we'll get into like why Putin feels like he can do this at the moment, but basically people are worried that like first Ukraine, then the rest of the fractured parts of Europe that are all small countries, because no one really seems to be physically stopping Putin from doing what he wants, and so will that just continue beyond Ukraine?
It seems like one of his goals, the question of like why is Putin doing this, and that's complicated and probably no one really knows aside from Putin. But it looks like it's an attempt at reunifying the USSR, basically, and maybe in his world returning it to its former glory, and that's what we're doing here. And I do think that this is important to emphasize that this is really the first major conventional warfare Europe has seen of this type since World War II.
Yep.
And so this is why this is so concerning, not for the entire world, obviously for the people of Ukraine who are suffering in this moment, but also for Europeans, for Americans, for citizens in Asia. The entire world needs to be looking at this and trying to figure out what happens next. Let's talk a little bit about some of the disinformation campaign and the propaganda that we've seen. I think we've seen some of this on social media already, but what's happening with the disinformation campaigns?
Yeah, there's been a consistent theme of reporters and people that are showing the attacks from Russia into Ukraine, videos, and these accounts and the news reporters that are in Ukraine and others have been consistently blocked and banned from Twitter. So this is a tweet from one of these individuals that says, "I am back again after having been locked out twice in the last 24 hours. First time for a post debunking the foiled sabotaged gas attack, and the second time for a post debunking the Ukrainian attack on Russia. Twitter needs to do something against these locks now." I'm not sure what the content was that got him blocked, but my opinion, my take on this is it's obviously not Twitter blocking these people.
It's bots.
It's bots, blanket reporting, like you can ban anyone on Twitter if you get enough people to report that person fast enough.
Yeah. This is an aspect of social media cyber warfare, right? We're seeing kind of how it plays out, where all you have to do is block some of the images and videos and voices getting out for some period of time in order to kind of increase the fog of war. And you could do that very easily if you have a bot army that just reports on various tweets and says, and then the Twitter algorithms will flag it. It's completely automated. And that's what's going on right now too.
Yeah. And with stuff like this, Putin and Russia's strategy has really been to distort time. So they are making recordings. We'll talk about this later. They're making recordings that they say are at specific times, but they actually made them like hours and hours prior. There's just a great, fantastic effort of psyops and internet cyber warfare going on. And it's just obfuscating our data and our information about what's actually going on inside of Ukraine. So like this report about only 40 people have been reported dead. Who knows? Who knows?
And I know at least the U.S. intelligence agency expects to see tens of thousands of lives lost as a result. I think I saw an estimate from the Biden administration saying 50,000. It is interesting that Western...
How many?
50,000.
Lives
lost?
Not
now.
Oh.
Projected.
Oh, God.
Projected. And I think that one thing that's been interesting is that Western intelligence sources have been actually pretty spot on about predicting this so far, which was difficult to foresee. So maybe that's a source of signal so far. It's very difficult to tell. But I think a larger point, because we've been talking about Russia and Putin, and don't want people to get the sense that these two things are, going hand in hand, because the Russian people largely, I think from what we can tell, what many can tell, they don't want this to happen either. Okay. There's an element of this is Putin and Putin's government war, not necessarily a war inflicted by the Russian people. And what are we looking at here, David?
Yeah, this is a protest in Moscow, which is a brave place to protest, of people protesting against the war in Ukraine. It's hard to quantify the number of people in this protest, but it looks like a lot. They're all wearing masks, maybe because of COVID, but maybe also strategically. Interesting time that we're having this simultaneously with masks being abundant. Apparently, I saw a tweet that said anything from the Russia TV is talking about the constant assurances that Russia is only doing this to protect, and that Ukraine is provoking them. Again, like trying to fight that disinformation. Basically what they're doing is they're trying to silence all the information coming out of Ukraine so they can kind of fill the void with their own narratives. Where everyone's calling them out for it, but like sometimes it just works anyways.
There's like graffiti, no war graffiti being spotted all around Moscow from Russian citizens. And, keep in mind how dangerous these sorts of acts of protest actually are in Russia right now. Obviously, jail sentences and far worse can happen to people who do this. Can we talk about what happens next? Because I feel like this is all emerging as we're recording this on a Thursday. The big question is, what is the world's response going to be? I think there's some context here that we should go over. Is the world largely still needs things from Russia, particularly Europe, but also America is very dependent on Russia for resources. Here's a list of raw resources: palladium, platinum, gold, oil, gas, nickel, wheat.
Oil and gas being the big one.
Yeah, and 30 to 40% of Europe's natural gas supply is actually coming from Russia right now. 30 to 40%. So sanctions against Russia hurt the rest of the world as well. And this is something to weigh as well. We've had inflation recently. It's been going up, and oil prices and gas prices continuing to increase for average everyday citizens around the world. And now we have this sort of supply shock. If the EU and the US stops purchasing Russian supplies, what does that do to a barrel of oil or energy costs in a place like Germany?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's the conversation that Germany has plans to create a pipeline between them and Russia, which are now being canceled, I believe. Meanwhile, Russia or most of Europe is going through a pretty, I don't know how big to call it, but an energy crisis. The winter in Europe is mild at the moment. Thank God for that, because if it wasn't mild, we would have even more demand for Russia's oil, and they would have an even stronger stranglehold. So it's one of those things, while we're watching Russia invade Ukraine, we're also buying oil from them because Europe needs to stay warm. But also, like, Russia needs money too. So, like, it works both ways. These supply chains are codependent. So we have these very, like, important relationships for resources, and while we just watch Russia invade Ukraine. So kind of very delicate situation.
And on the economic sanctions list, of course, you can start sanctioning various commodities and supplies coming from Russia. You can also, if you are the US or some Western powers, try to lock Russia out of the existing SWIFT financial system. So you can try to freeze assets in bank accounts. You can try to cut off Russia as a whole towards SWIFT. And I think on SWIFT, which are sort of the payment and settlement rails that the world generally uses outside of crypto. And I think that the US and European countries will probably explore these sorts of things. As of now, I don't really know what's happening, David, because this is all emerging so quickly. What the US's response is going to be as far as, sanctions, what Europe's response is going to be as far as sanctions. And it's hard to know what exactly to do in this case. Mm-hmm. I mean, do you go extreme and sanction very hard, or do you sort of not sanction and appear weak, appear that you don't care, but you're getting the resources that your citizens and your country needs from Russia? There's no clear decision in these types of situations.
Right before we started recording, we were coming off the heels of Biden's first speech, and he talked about making very strong economic sanctions against Russia, the strongest economic sanctions, including SWIFT sanctions, as an answer to, like, why won't we be using military force? And Biden says, well, because we're going to sanction the shit out of them, basically. The thing is, and again, unreported, I just saw a tweet about this. I'm just reporting what I see, is that SWIFT sanctions, cutting off Russia from the SWIFT network, is actually not something that NATO has full alignment with. So when Biden says that we are going to sanction them via SWIFT, that's not something that all NATO nations are in approval of. I'm pretty sure that's how energy is being bought from Russia.
Right.
And so, like, there's cracks in, like, the coherence of the UN or NATO right now. And I'm
sure Russia has already game theoretically, like, working this out. Yeah, plan this out, and they're kind of calling the West bluff. Mm-hmm. Like, now you need our resources too much. Right. Or if you do sanction, then we know workarounds or route arounds. I think they're definitely, Putin is calling the West bluff on this.
Russia always has a very strong ally, maybe isn't the right word, but, like, China will buy all of Russia's oil off of them if they need to. So they have, like, a backup buyer of their resources if Russia needs that to happen. Like, China's pretty damn close to Russia.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother thing to talk about, which maybe we will. So, but those are the facts as we know them right now. That's what's going on. David, do you have any takes on this?
Yeah.
I mean,
so my takes on this,
armchair takes, right?
Armchair takes, yeah.
Yes.
My interpretations are like, well, the question we want to ask is, like, why is this happening right now? Because this is an unprovoked, just impromptu invasion of another sovereign nation. Like, why is this happening? And I think understanding a little bit of the context, it might be good to do as we go forth into this, again, I think we've been saying this on Bankless since we started this. The 2020s are going to be chaotic, and they're only getting more and more chaotic, and this is another example of that. So why is this happening right now? Like, well, America itself is politically divided. Like, we just had the most contentious presidency of all time, followed up by what is another contentious presidency, more or less. And so there's a war at home. Like, we're distracted, and meanwhile, we just got embarrassed by Afghanistan. And so America's influence abroad has not shown to be either of interest by its own constituency or we're not even competent to have outside influence abroad. So there's that. Meanwhile, Boris Johnson is in a critical position in the UK. Trudeau is dealing with crisis in Canada. Angela Merkel out of Germany is recently gone. Macron is facing strong opposition at home. So we have all these other world leaders that are busy, that are dealing with their own messes. And also at the same time, like Russia has the defense of they got nuclear bombs. So like, while we're all dealing with our own internal crises, Russia with their big swing and whatever comes in. It's like, oh, we could probably take Ukraine because they're all like in their own conflicts. They don't have a spine to stand on. And so Putin's like, well, now's the opportunity. And Putin, from his perspective, if you listen to his speech, like he talks about like how the ethnic purity of the Ukrainian people and how they are truly a people of Russia. And this is straight up like, in my opinion, Putin is like the last big imperialist that controls a country. He is an imperialist. He is a barbarian, I guess. He's somebody who wants power in a world that has moved on from that, except since he's the only one that is aggressive enough to actually fight with weapons and violence. No one else wants to fight with weapons and violence these days. So Putin's like, well, I'll be the one that does that because no one's going to stop me. He actually truly wants like the ethnic purity of Russian people to be coherent again. And so he's using military to do that. And we as a society, as a global population, we've all moved on from that. We stopped that after end of World War II. But apparently not Putin. And so there's no one with like a taste for violence these days that's willing to go up and fight him. So that's my take on that.
I guess my take on that is I somewhat agree. I think that's worth also zooming out a bit. So Naval wrote this tweet and he said, "This is the end of Pax Americana." Right, the peace of the American empire. I'm reading a fantastic book right now called Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order, Ray Dalio, which he basically zooms out and looks at these things in cycles. And his overall thesis is that the U.S. as an empire, from a power perspective, and you can measure that by a number of different metrics, and he does, is on the decline. And there are other empires, so-called, that are on the rise. And so this is other opponents, other adversaries kind of testing U.S. power. And I guess the bear case for all of this, or the sad case, and the reason for a tumultuous 2020s is the world tends to go in these kinds of cycles, right? Yeah, we go from a period of peacetime, and that traditionally happens after some major event, after a war, let's say, and a new world order is established with an undisputed winner. And we have this period of peace for a time until that power diminishes and leaves a vacuum for others to come take in. One thing that I think is important for us all to be watching is how China reacts. China, of course, more so than Russia, is the emerging power. And just one bit of info maybe to get in, it seems like there could be some Chinese aircraft in the air defense zone over Taiwan right now. It's hard to know if that's normal or if that's new. I've also heard some reports of Chinese ships crossing Taiwan borders. So the question of what does China do? Do they try to pull a Ukraine and go the route that Putin is going and forcibly take Taiwan? Is the next question. And this alliance, or so-called kind of quiet alliance between Russia and China, is very concerning. But they all seem like tests on the West's power.
Yeah, it's one of these things where like the United States, how can we justify going and putting our resources to defend Taiwan while we didn't do that for Ukraine? Like maybe before Putin invaded Ukraine, before that happened, if China had invaded Taiwan, we would have just like sailed our ships right over and gotten them out of there. But now that this Ukraine mess is happening, China's like, well, I guess we're doing this. I guess we're taking over the local land areas that we've always wanted to. And since they're not doing anything, I guess we're just in a context of sitting on our hands. So I guess I'll just go and take Taiwan. You can see how the ball can start to roll here.
Yeah, this is what this could be building up towards. It doesn't have to. I think Ray Dalio in his book, also makes the point that some of these transitions of power could be peaceful. They don't always have to be contentious. They don't always have to result in war. There's some reason for optimism. We have things like the internet. So we sort of see the humans side of the story far quicker. We're all in communication. We have fewer borders. So there's definitely some hope here. But yeah, it's something we're all going to have to watch. And I think is the reason why this is a pretty major event, not just for Europe, but for the world. And we'll have to see what happens next. Any other thoughts on this, David?
Yeah, so this is coming off of your tweet that you referenced about Naval, who said end of Pax Americana. This is that 80-year cycle in different words, where we've talked about the fourth turning a few times on Bankless before, but apparently every 80 years there's a grand reorganizing of how society works. And this is that theory distilled. It's too much to go into, but there's a link in the show notes and also a fantastic book called The Fourth Turning. And this is just on par with when we say the 20s is going to be a chaotic decade. It's because if this model of how the world works, these 80-year cycles works this way, well, we're at the end of one. And so we are currently going through what this infographic labels a millennial crisis. So that's us.
Yeah,
sweet.
Feels like it's that time for humanity,
Time for something new.
Time for something new.
This is why crypto people always talk about we get on the arc, get on crypto, because institutions are going to break down and we need to build up new ones. And crypto is that new institution. And we talk about being your own bank and having your own private keys. We don't know what the crisis is, but at least you have your control over your own money. Having your own money and your own private keys gives you optionality on the future. When we do not know what the future is, having the strongest ownership over your money and assets possible allows you to weather storms. That's what going bankless means.
I don't like to get dark, but even when it comes to, if you're talking like a period of time like the 1930s, the 1940s, fleeing a country with your assets,
right?
How do you do that?
Yeah, when your assets are cash and gold, which are physical assets,
you can't. Yeah. Crypto provides a way to do that. Things are getting dark. We've got some other news we have to get to, talk a bit more about the markets and, of course, the releases of the week. But before we do, we want to thank the sponsors that made this episode possible.
Living a bankless life requires taking control of your own private keys. Not your keys, not your crypto. That's why so many in the bankless nation already have their Ledger hardware wallet. But the Ledger ecosystem is much more than just a secure hardware wallet. Ledger is the combination of the Ledger hardware wallet, the Ledger Live app, and soon the CL Crypto Life card powered by Ledger. The CL card powered by Ledger is a crypto debit card with powerful features like an instant exchange to fiat, where crypto assets are only sold at the moment that you swipe your card, and also credit from crypto collateral, where you can collateralize your crypto assets in order to get a higher credit limit. You'll be able to manage your CL card powered by Ledger inside the Ledger Live app, right next to all the DeFi apps and services that you're already used to using, making the Ledger Live app your one-stop shop for all of your financial needs. Go to ledger.com, grab a Ledger, and download Ledger Live to get all of your DeFi applications all in one place. If you're going bankless, you need MetaMask. This is your tool to unlock the world of DeFi without giving up custody over your private keys. MetaMask is both a secure in-browser wallet and also a secure bridge for your hardware wallet. You can now trade tokens on any DEX or aggregator. MetaMask Swap gathers real-time pricing information across all the DeFi exchanges, allowing you to select your best price while getting all the MetaMask benefits of self-custody, lower gas costs, and increased transaction success rates. MetaMask also has a fantastic mobile wallet that I use when I'm out and about, which I use to collect POAPs, NFTs, and do all my DeFi things while I'm away from home. If you haven't downloaded MetaMask, you gotta try it out. Web3 wouldn't be the same without it. Download MetaMask for desktop and mobile at metamask.io and load up your Trezor, Ledger, Lattice, or Keystone hardware wallets so that they too can get into the world of Web3. Polygon is Ethereum's largest and most vibrant scaling solution to date. With millions of monthly users and all of the biggest DeFi apps, the Polygon ecosystem has turned into a blossoming metropolis of DeFi activity. Transactions on Polygon are quick and cheap, allowing users the freedom to achieve their DeFi goals, all while being economically anchored to Ethereum. But Polygon isn't just the proof-of-stake sidechain. The Polygon team is building a suite of scaling solutions, including Polygon Hermes, Maiden, Nightfall, and Zero, all with different design choices in order to be optimized for all possible crypto use cases. If you're a developer who wants to build on the Polygon ecosystem, go to the link in the show notes to check out their fantastic documentation. And if you're a user who just wants to experience fast and cheap DeFi, you can bridge over your ETH or other tokens and start playing around with any of the thousands of applications that are available on Polygon.
Hey guys, we are back. Still on the theme of markets. We took a quick detour there because we had to talk about the Russia stuff. But David, as we're recording this and while we went to break, ETH price just shot up, which is interesting.
This is absolutely crazy. Just like 12 hours ago, we were at 2450 coming off the lows, and right now we're basically at 2,700. Same with BTC is at $39,000. So some very strong bounces back to almost before pre-invasion levels.
Yeah, look at this.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's nuts.
I haven't seen one of these bars in a very long time.
That is vertical. That's vertical. I'm looking for news, but I'm not finding anything.
We'll have to see how this develops. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about some other things while we're talking about markets. This is something we haven't looked at in a while, but it's worth looking at. You know, the wrapped Bitcoin supply on Ethereum is at an all-time high. 1.4% of all Bitcoin is actually in tokenized form on Ethereum in wrapped BTC. This is somewhat banked, so, you know, I don't love it because it's custodied with BitGo, I believe. But it's really interesting to see Bitcoin as a monetary unit being used on the Ethereum network.
Yeah, we've always said that Ethereum is a settlement network for all types of assets. And if people want those assets on Ethereum to be useful, then that number is going to go up. I'm expecting this number to go up further.
Yeah, same here. Let's also talk about a number that's gone up is the Uniswap market share. I didn't realize Uniswap now has 80% of the decentralized exchange market share on Ethereum, and that's up 30%. I believe 30% this year, maybe over the last year or so. So not only are they growing, they're also eating up market share in the DEX space. Any thoughts on this?
No thoughts. Nice job, Uniswap.
Yeah, Uniswap just crushing it with their V2 release. Also decreasing fees, which I think helps with that. Rocketpool is crushing it as well. Now they have 1% of Ethereum validators. That's been over a 3-month time period when they launched. So great to see some progress on that. Rocketpool, of course, is a much more decentralized staking as a service provider, which we always support at Bankless. Any takes on this?
Yeah, 1% is a fantastic number, especially for such a young protocol. And there's been some Ethereum client diversity issues, as in too much stake is happening on the same clients, which has some negative repercussions if bad events happen. But Rocketpool has been a force to help balance that out. And so more and more stake inside of Rocketpool helps Ethereum become more and more decentralized. So we like that.
Yeah, doing the right thing for the network. Absolutely. Let's talk about this too. So I think everyone is looking for yield these days, David, especially in this high inflation environment. And I saw this from the CoinStack blog newsletter, which I read. If you look at yield, where can you get yield? Your bank savings account, mine pays 0.01%. Okay, at best you might be getting 0.5%. I don't know anyone who's getting 0.5%.
Yeah, that's a crazy high number.
Okay. If you want to get into treasuries, they're paying out 9%. This is nominal yield. Municipal bonds, 1.6%. Corporate bonds, 3.3%. You go into something super high risk, like high yield debt, big risk of default, that pays out 5.6%. Okay, that's all nominal yield. That's not adjusted for inflation. Now, factor in a 7.5% annual inflation here. And these so-called savings accounts look terrible. Bank savings account, you're making negative 7% per year. Negative 6.4% on treasuries. The safe asset doesn't look so safe. Municipal bonds, negative 5.9%. Corporate bonds, negative 4.2%. Your real return on these products actually sucks. So where do investors go to get returns? This CoinStack article, he talks about DeFi. And I think that's actually a great place to talk about Notional, who wanted us to get this message out anyway this week. But they are offering a fixed APY interest account effectively in DeFi. So you can do it all without a bank, and you can get 7.8% fixed APY on your USDC. I think it's upwards of 9% on DAI. And these aren't variable, so they don't change by the day. but you could just lock that in. Not only Notional, there are some other fantastic DeFi products, of course, that offer these types of returns. But I think this is why people are going to come to DeFi. They're going to come to crypto for the returns, for things that they can't get inside of their bank account. So it's pretty cool. Of course, we'll include a link in the show notes to Notional, so you can go check that out. They also have ETH and Bitcoin. You want to stake some of your tokenized Bitcoin as well. Yeah.
How ironic is it that the you can actually beat inflation on dollar yields, but the only place that you can do that is in DeFi? That's so awesome.
It's awesome and also silly and terrible at the same time. I don't know what to say.
So is this decade, Ryan.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly best of times, worst of times kind of decade. Guess humanity's seen those before. Let's get to the releases of the week. All right, so this is a big one. ZK rollups on Ethereum. ZK Sync has just released an EVM-compatible ZK rollup. For people who don't understand anything that I just said, David, what is this and why is it significant?
So people generally think that ZK EVMs will be the end state of Ethereum, just because ZK is like a compression algorithm, rollups another compression algorithm. So super compressed data, which means super cheap and fast transactions. And out of Matter Labs, out of ZK Sync, they have made their first ever ZK EVM public testnet that's live. So we can start to actually build out Ethereum DeFi apps on layer 2s, but layer 2s that are like another order of magnitude faster than the layer 2s that we previously are used to, like the traditional optimistic rollups like Arbitrum or Optimism. There's definitely ZK EVMs are definitely a hard mode. Building out tooling, building out infrastructure, building out composability is an order of magnitude more difficult. So while we're getting an order of magnitude more speed, it's also an order of magnitude more difficult. But if there's one thing I've learned is you do not bet against the Ethereum ecosystem on innovating and being able to solve hard problems. And this is the first step, the actual building out the foundation for experimenting and iterating and improving ZK apps, ZK DeFi. So really congratulations to the Matter Labs team. ZK Sync 2.0 public testnet is live. And so the developers of the world can go and start building out the super fast. Okay, this, you know the meme about Vitalik saying the internet of money needs to be less than 5 cents? This is that. This is that solution. This is what that is.
Getting towards.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to have Alex from the ZK Sync, the Matter Labs team on the podcast, hopefully next week to talk about this and what it all includes. Because I think the big story here, David, is people thought this would be years away. Mm-hmm. Now here it is. We're in February. And we already have something on testnet for this. So it seems to be happening quicker than we thought. We'll have to ask Alex about that when he comes on. This is pretty big too. Opera has millions of users. So it is a popular web browser. They are integrating layer 2, Ethereum's layer 2 through Diversify, which is also a ZK powered technology. This time by Starkware. But the cool thing about this is it's all behind the scenes. So where do you see it? Well, it's integrated into Opera's Android wallet, their Android crypto wallet. Behind the scenes, it's connecting to liquidity if you want to trade something from Diversify, which is a layer 2, technology built on Starkware, right? So users they're not going to hear about Starkware or ZK or any of this thing. They'll just click on a transaction. It'll be completely censor resistant, trust minimized, and bankless, and they'll be able to make it happen with minimal to no gas fees. That's the future here, and that's getting integrated in the app layer by not a super popular browser, but a browser nonetheless. Opera has millions of users at this point in time, so it's super exciting to see.
Yeah, if anyone wants the world where you click your buttons and the crypto things happen and it's cheap and free and instant and it obviously is also obfuscated away from you, that's what we're talking about. That's what Opera's doing right now. And that's also the power of ZK rollups, ZK EVMs. Just like you press the button and then the thing happens and that's the only thing that you think about. This is the UI and UX that consumers expect these days. And so ZK stuff being built into browsers directly is like probably the holy grail of just like DeFi UI, UX.
Absolutely. Arbitrum continuing to punch it forward, of course. That's another roll-up solution. And Yearn has just launched on Arbitrum, which is cool to see. In fact, I think we should include a list of all sorts of cool new apps that have been developed on Arbitrum in the show notes. for you guys.
We don't have time to go into it, but there's a really long list. Somebody, who is this? Oh, this is Lido Cohen from Hop Protocol. Just put a list together of everything that you can do on Optimism or on Arbitrum, and it's literally too long for us to read with the weekly rollup. So go ahead and just check it out in the show notes.
So much more. Also, this is on layer 2 as well. This is a Hop Lyra integration. Talk about that. What are we looking at here, David?
Yeah, so this is the first of its kind integration that I've ever seen. This is Hop Protocol, which is a bridge that allows you to move assets from layer 1 to layer 2 and layer 2 to layer 2, but also an app, Lyra, which is an options trading protocol on Optimism. And so Hop is integrated directly into the Lyra app. Or is it Lyra? Is it Lyra?
I don't know. Lyra.
Lyra. And so you can go, and again, this is a conversation of UX. How many problems can we just remove away from the users' lives? And if you don't have money on Optimism, you need to get money on Optimism so you can use Lyra, but also you don't care about Optimism. You just want to use Lyra. And so you can use Hop to go straight into Lyra inside of the Lyra UI UX. And so inside of Lyra, you have the ability to get your money into the app that you need it to because Hop is integrated directly. And so this is just how we start solving some of these UX issues that make people frustrated about layer 2s.
Yeah, another example of how seamless this is going to be, how the UX problems will be abstracted in the future. This is super cool too. Whenever Etherscan launches something, I just love it because I use Etherscan on a daily basis, and they just launched this. So this is an NFT viewer on Etherscan, and I think there's a button so you can see your NFTs. And this commenter says it feels like the chat with owner button is going to be a popular feature. So I think a few rollups ago we talked about this messenger type app that Etherscan was building where you could message from one ETH address to another. It looks like they're integrating that here too. So you can actually message the owner of this particular NFT, which you're seeing on Etherscan. Block explorers are becoming incredibly useful, incredibly neat in the future. I mean, I don't know if these are the future Googles, but they're certainly indexing the chain and doing all sorts of useful things on chain for users. And this is a really cool feature to see.
I think a lot of haggling will be going down in this feature. I feel like that's what that chat with owner, basically just replace chat with owner with just haggle. That's what that's going to be.
Haggle now.
Haggle.
All right. What's this, David? So this is a chess app on Ethereum.
This is really cool.
I think we're about to see.
Yeah, this is DAO versus DAO chess, which is a really interesting concept. Chess on a blockchain, never mind. Games will never be on layer 1, so don't think about that. Games will only be on layer 2s. But also there's a problem with games like chess to have a smart contract competition because chess is such a computer-dominated world these days. You can't have humans to humans trustlessly playing chess because one of them could just have a computer engine to the side. But this thing is completely different and solves that problem. This is DAO to DAO chess, where one DAO is black and one DAO is white. And if you guys remember Twitch Plays Pokemon, where there's just 10,000 people all pressing inputs and the collective intelligence of all of them try to coordinate on the right move. So DAOs will come together and they will use snapshot voting to vote on what move to make, and then that move will be made on chain, I think on Arbitrum. And so we can have DAO versus DAO chess matches where it's just wisdom of the crowd versus wisdom of the crowd, which is insanely cool.
But why are we doing this? It's insanely cool, but it seems like the world's slowest game of chess to ever be played.
I think it's, well, I don't know how, remember Twitch Plays Pokemon, Ryan? That game lasted a week because of how chaotic it was. And it had tens of thousands of people tuning in to either participate or watch. And it's not necessarily about chess, although I think this chess use case will take off because crypto people love chess for some reason. But it's more about just DAO collective hive mind intelligences becoming instantiated into games. So this is one part of game, one part proof of concept as to what could be.
That's super cool. Yeah, I see it when you put it like that.
Wait, before you go on, because
there's another.
The thing about this is since DAOs are open and permissionless, the game of who wins the game of chess actually can move off chain and into discords where like if you're on team white and you want the black side to make bad moves, you can go into the black side DAO and start psyopsing them. It's like, well, guys, I think we should sacrifice our queen. I think that'd be a good move. And so like the internet warfare, like is just, this is the friendly kind of internet warfare other than the ugly kind we saw earlier. But just like the psyops of DAO versus DAO chess, I think is going to be really fun because it's going to put the game elsewhere other than the board.
I do think this is a really interesting primitive that, of course, you can only have once you have super fast transaction execution layers like ZK rollups that we were talking about earlier. Let's get to races, though. Sequoia Capital, they've been a little bit late coming, big VC firm, but late coming crypto. Now they are launching a $500 to $600 million crypto fund to invest in tokens.
What a title. What a title.
2018, no one wanted to invest in tokens. Now we got big VCs launching $100 million funds, $500 million funds to do it. And they've done some of their first. So the first is a company called Maltus, which is building a crypto wallet that's based on the Gnosis multisig, completely bankless, really cool product if you haven't checked it out. Maltus been a fan of that product for a while, and Sequoia just funded them as an example. I bet more exciting things in the future, but I don't know, high level, it's great to see all of this capital flowing into crypto projects. These are very important projects for the world.
If anyone from Sequoia is listening, let me know if you want some advice as to which tokens to buy, because it's going to be mine.
You can sell them your bags?
No, I'm not going to sell them my bags. I'm just going to ask them to buy my bags.
Buy my bags.
Pump the
buy
floor
David's
price.
Bags.
Yeah, we got
Sequoia.
some good token suggestions for you.
Guys, speaking of great suggestions, we have some great job suggestions for you, of course. And our biggest suggestion every week is get a job in crypto. That's a suggestion. It's not an imperative. It's just something we strongly recommend you to do. It's a really exciting time to join the space and get hired. And there's lots of companies hiring. I'm going to read out a few of these. The first is a senior product manager at Super Rare, senior product engineer at Moment Ranks, bunch from DYDX you got to check out. Community manager, DYDX, governance growth lead, a business operations and finance associate, a marketing associate, all from DYDX, an accountant at Smart DeFi, a Web3 engineer, Solidity and React at Goldfinch, a senior Go Rust engineer at Syndica, a bunch of maker roles, a bunch of deep DAO roles, a bunch of other things on the jobs board. You can find that out at bankless.pallet.com/jobs. Just sign up for it. And email will automatically remind you when new listings are listed. Get a job in crypto. What more can we say?
Are you ready for this one, Ryan? This one's going to be a mess.
News?
Yeah. What's coming up next?
Yeah, what's coming up next?
Aren't we about to find out who the DAO hacker is? Oh, I think we are.
Yes.
Oh, yes. That's what's
DAO hacker. Actually, I already knew this. This is not a surprise because it's in our show notes, David, but you can act surprised.
Sure, I'll act surprised. Okay, so this is Laura Shin, who has, I think, started actually the first significant crypto podcast with Unchained. And she recently, she's been writing her book, The Cryptopians, which I have right here. It's kind of a gargantuan book, actually.
It looks heavy.
It's thick. It's a thick boy.
Yeah.
And she allegedly has discovered the identity of the DAO hacker, the 2016 DAO hacker. That is the thing that resulted in the chain split between Ethereum and Ethereum Classic and caused a bunch of drama. And apparently we know who that person is now, according to Laura Shin.
I feel like the DAO hack is like probably the second biggest crypto event in the history of this industry. Maybe the first is probably Mt. Gox, just because it happened a little earlier. But this is like a massive event and somewhat of a mystery. Like everyone's always been wondering who the DAO hacker actually is. Why did they do this? What were this person's intent? So Laura's figured it out for us.
Laura Shin says in this Forbes article, who hacked the DAO? My exclusive investigation, built on the reporting for my new book, The Cryptopians, appears to point to Toby Honishk, a 36-year-old programmer who grew up in Austria and was living in Singapore at the time of the hack. Until now, he has been best known for his role as co-founder and CEO of 10x, which raised $80 million in a 2017 ICO, which is, by the way, now valued at like $5 million. An effort that failed. Now sits at $11 million. After being at a valuation of $535 million with that one, but anyways, that's beside the point. He did an ICO, as scammers and hackers might do. And apparently, through how she discovered this is way too much for this weekly roll-up, but people are generally looking at the evidence that she has put forth and kind of giving it a soft thumbs up. It's like, okay, that looks legitimate. I think we're still going to be unpacking this thing. So far, no one has really raised a red flag saying that's not right, except for Toby himself, again, of what you would expect. But apparently we found out who the DAO hacker was this week. That's a big deal. So
if it was Toby, the way it might have happened is the hacker, maybe Toby, allegedly used Shapeshift to convert Ethereum Classic to Bitcoin, and then used Wasabi, which is a CoinJoin privacy technique on Bitcoin, a wallet
Bitcoin
specifically
tumbler.
For this, a Bitcoin tumbler.
Kind of like Tornado Cash.
Yeah, to mix the Bitcoin, then withdrew it to 4 different central exchanges, then withdrew it to another blockchain called Grin, which is a privacy-focused blockchain for added privacy. And how was this determined? Through chain analysis. The actual company were the ones who uncovered this. And so this also brings to mind, is anything that was mixed through Wasabi, through CoinJoin techniques on Bitcoin, is that all suspect? Does Chainalysis have a way to crack that and determine who the identities of any individuals are who have used this in the past? Or did the hacker Toby mess this up at some point in the process and leave some clues that he shouldn't have otherwise? So it's calling that into question as well, the privacy techniques used by this particular wallet.
I think the answer is all of the above. It was both a combination of, filling in the Sudoku puzzles of the on-internet IP address traces that this guy left. Apparently he had a connection that blabbed, and then also Wasabi was not a perfect mixer. But this is not how he hacked the DAO. This is how he laundered the funds. But I mean, guy managed to stay secret for a really long time. So crazy.
We should say that obviously this is not certain. I don't know, where does this go next? Does this go to court? Do people press charges?
And who presses charges?
Yeah.
Who's the victim here?
Anyone who lost money in the DAO hack. It happened so long ago.
But they didn't, because they did the contentious, or they did the state transition that undid it. It's like, who really lost here, actually?
Right. I suppose the hacker might say, code is law, and if they were to defend this in court, that I was just exercising
my ability to
an
write
option
code
provided to me in the code itself. I don't know if that's a legal defense. I don't know where this goes from here, but it might be a story that resurfaces and we talk about it again. Yeah. If indeed this moves to the next step in the process. I feel okay. I remember when this happened. I got some Ethereum Classic at the time.
Oh, you were in the DAO? I didn't know you were in the DAO.
No, I wasn't in the DAO, but I got.
But you had ETH on chain.
I had ETH, and so I got the Ethereum Classic fork. And I decided, what is this thing? And I was just learning at the time. It's like, what is this mysterious coin? Do I keep it? A bunch of people are saying it's the next Ethereum. It's like, the real Ethereum, the true Ethereum. I just market sold it eventually. But
proud of you.
I didn't feel impacted or hurt by this incident, other than the price of Ether tanked, of course.
Yeah, but it does that every now and then.
It does that. It has tended to do that. What else happened this week? Another hack or phishing scam that was pretty big deal over last weekend. I think this was an OpenSea NFT related issue. What happened here?
Yeah, this news rocked the NFT world before people realized that it actually wasn't that big of a deal. People thought that basically somebody hacked the OpenSea contract, and was therefore able to access everyone's NFTs. That was not the case, but that was people's first impressions when they were trying to figure out what the hell was going on. As it turns out, there was a very well-crafted phishing email from OpenSea that got people to approve their NFTs as a request because they said, you have until 2 p.m. Oh, I do remember getting this email.
I remember
getting this email.
I was too busy to even look at it. I was like,
oh, there's something. OpenSea tells me I have to go do something.
It looks legit.
I'm going to go to my Discord and see if my friends are doing things. And I went to my Discord and my friends weren't doing things. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not doing anything either. This is how I maintain security, is like I check to see if my other friends are doing stuff. The email says, says you have until 2 p.m. Eastern on Friday, February 25th to migrate your listings. After that time, any listings you haven't migrated will expire. All existing offers will expire at that time. So basically like a slight fear-inducing email saying, hey, you got to go and you got to migrate your listings. Hit some buttons
on your wallet.
So some people did that and they went in there, hit their buttons. And what they were actually doing was they were giving approval to the hacker to access their NFTs. So this ended up 17 people ended up falling for this. And I think that's basically about it. I think $1.7 million worth of NFTs were stolen. A Bored Ape, a couple of Azukis, and a few others. Ultimately ended up being just not as big as a deal as people were making it out to be when they first heard about it. But I'm sorry, heart goes out for those 17 people that lost their NFTs.
Well, it was scary at first.
Actual OpenSea contracts.
It was scary at first. People thought it was like some general issue with OpenSea NFTs. So there was some freak out, and the communities I was involved in, which are like, go check your wallets, see if any NFTs are missing. So at first, people didn't know how broadly this issue was being. There's just reported of NFT wallets being drained of their NFTs, which of course is scary.
Very scary. Very scary headline. I did go to OpenSea and make sure that all my NFTs were there. I was like, oh, did he get mine?
I'm fine.
Not my MFers.
Yeah. Go back to sleep. Yeah. David, let's talk. Let's continue the story from last week about Canada. So we started the story last week. Canada had a trucker protest, of course, and we talked about Canada implementing an emergency provision that would allow them to freeze protesters' bank accounts. Well, they did implement that. Wrote an article on Friday about that called "Canada Needs Crypto." And it was a really historic event. First in Canadian history that this particular emergency act was put in place. And the concerning thing, from Bankless perspectives, it's not political at all. It's not like pro-trucker or anti-trucker. It's just anti the ability of a large government to freeze your life savings. Right. It feels like that should not be a power that governments have over their citizens. And I think that's been a consistent message from Bankless from day one. It's the separation of money and state is a good idea for reasons like this. So anyway, I guess moving the story forward over the weekend, Canada implemented this Emergency Act provision, started freezing a bunch of people's bank accounts. And this stranded people's money, canceled their credit cards, stopped their mortgage application. No due process. There was no judge involved. It was just sort of, you're on a list. We think you're involved in this protest. We don't have to give you the reasons why. We're going to send a message to your bank to cancel your accounts and kick you out of the financial economic system. So that happened. And then there was some back and forth. So why don't you read this Ontario Superior Court of Justice, who's asked a self-custody wallet provider to disclose user information and freeze users' Bitcoin. They actually wanted to freeze your crypto assets on a self-custody wallet, on a bankless wallet, and this was the team's response.
Yeah, this response is so great. Their response, this is the wallet provider, says that, Dear the Ontario Superior Court of Justice, Nunchuck, which is the company in question, is a self-custodial, collaborative multi-sig Bitcoin wallet, basically a Bitcoin wallet multi-sig. We are a software provider, not a custodial financial intermediary. Our software is free to use. It allows people to eliminate single points of failure and store Bitcoin in the safest way possible while preserving privacy. We do not collect any user identification information beyond email addresses. We also do not hold any keys. Therefore, we cannot freeze our users' assets. We cannot prevent them from being moved. We do not have knowledge of the existence, nature, value, and location of users' assets. This is by design. Please look up, I love this. Please look up how self-custody and private keys work. When the Canadian dollar becomes worthless, we will be here to serve you too. Sincerely, the Nunchuck team. This is an example in my mind of crypto values becoming instantiated in the companies that serve them. There's a reason why companies did not take home addresses, names. They took the minimum viable thing, which is an email address, which is not a good proxy for identity. And that's the only thing they took. And as a result of exhibiting the values that are in our crypto systems, they get to draft this awesome email to a top-down government who's requesting them to be ridiculous about how they manage with their clients. And they say, no, we literally cannot do that by design. And you know what enables us to do that? Crypto, Bitcoin. Bitcoin enables us to give you the middle finger. And here's an email explaining that to you.
Go learn how private keys work. because you clearly don't if you're even asking this question, right? So yeah, that was some of the crypto community's response, but I found this particularly unnerving. So apparently during the freezes and as a result of this information, the CEO of Kraken, crypto exchange, and also Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, started tweeting things like, hey, just so you know, if the Canadian government, the regulators ask us to freeze accounts when they're in Kraken or when they're in Coinbase, we have to do it. And we can do it. If you don't want that to happen, you should go check out a custodial wallet. Go look at those solutions. We encourage you to evaluate them, use them if that's what you want to do. Well, apparently, it seems like a totally reasonable position for anyone in the crypto industry to take. It's like, what's the solution to not having your accounts being frozen by a bank without your permission? You take custody of your own keys. You take ownership of them, right? Well, apparently what happened as a result of this is the Ontario Securities Commission sent the tweets to the police.
Ridiculous.
Because it believed that the crypto executives were offering advice on how to not store your own private keys, but evade the sanctions on funds, according to the report. Absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah.
Ludicrous.
They just don't get crypto. They don't understand how it works.
They don't understand how it works. And to think that they could pressure, and this is what's concerning, is this is a regulator saying this to organizations, to companies that they regulate. Hey, Brian Armstrong. Hey, Jesse Powell, Kraken. You don't tell people about self-custodial crypto wallets.
Don't tell them crypto exists.
don't tell them about this. Very concerning. And actually, it's like, for me, it was kind of off-putting because, so I tweeted this out. Brian Armstrong and Jesse Powell tweeted support of self-custodial wallets. Ontario regulators sent tweets to the police for offering advice on evading sanctions. There may come a time when writing a Bankless article or recording a podcast becomes illegal to these people. We have to be ready for that.
Half of our previous podcasts are already illegal.
The whole thing.
According to this,
How do you go bankless?
Like
Step one.
Something we would totally put into the Bankless newsletter is how to get your crypto assets off of a centralized exchange and onto your ledger. We talk about that almost every other rollup, and this is the
we encourage it.
This is the
it's
conversation.
The entire point of the podcast and everything we do.
One day, Ryan, we're going to be running an illegal podcast.
I can't believe that.
It's insane.
It's absolutely insane, and I think we've talked about this abstractly in the past. What happens if governments really crack down on going bankless, or the ability to own your own private keys? Like, what do we do in these cases? And it's surreal and scary to see it starting to happen, maybe in the West.
Right.
We're not talking about China here. We're not talking about Russia. We're talking about Canada.
Right.
Oh my God. I guess some other follow-ups on this. Vitalik Buterin, what did he say about this?
It's dangerous, he says, on Canada blacklisting protesters' crypto wallets. I do think that having decentralized alternatives to intermediaries is a good way to limit the damage. He said this at ETH Denver and during a CoinDesk interview.
Very reasonable
but
take.
Also since then, Trudeau has revoked the Emergencies Act, saying existing laws are enough to deal with the protesters. So maybe this is a self-admission that they went too far. But still, the fact that they went there at all and didn't think twice about that is insane.
Yeah. So what are the learnings or takes coming out of this?
Yeah. So my take, and there's a bunch of people, I put this tweet further on in the take, so we'll come across it later. But I made a take about how people that are anti-trucker convoy are on the side of anti-trucker convoy people. Apparently, that's actually a lot of Canada. Apparently, the trucker convoy was
it's a majority, for sure.
It's a majority of Canadians did not like the truckers and were kind of in approval of those people getting removed. And I could totally see myself very frustrated by, I don't know, how the truckers are messing up the supply chains and messing up the roads and preventing me from doing anything. Could see myself getting mad at them. You are totally allowed to be mad at the truckers and also be very concerned that we froze their bank accounts. Those are two different opinions that you are allowed to hold at the same time. Those are not mutually exclusive. And that is where I don't really have an opinion on the truckers. They didn't impact my life. I'm generally pro-compliance when it comes to COVID and whatever, other stuff. But I'm also down for freedom of expression, and I'm also down for freedom of money from state. And again, you can separate your opinions about who these truckers are, and also still think that government should not be freezing bank accounts.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was actually disturbed by some of the people who, like, some of the pushback on that. Some people who don't seem to understand that you can have those opinions at the same time. And I tweeted this out. I'm really disturbed by the amount of people justifying a Western democracy using its banking system as a weapon against the people to stifle dissent. What Canada did is not okay. Also, this is a better advertisement for crypto than 1,000 Super Bowl ads. I really think that this message was heard around the world to people who otherwise wouldn't have heard it. Actually have a take about that coming up later. But I mean, this is what can happen. This is what governments have the ability to do. They can freeze the banking system, your bank account, your money at a whim. Do you really have property rights if they can take it away from you with a keystroke and a mouse click? That's the question. But this, I thought, was a tweet that just summed it up far better than I ever could have. And this is from an account on Twitter, 6529.
Punk 6529, he's famous.
Punk 6529. Let's get into this. So where does he start this thread?
He basically makes the claim that there are no other constitutional rights in substance without the freedom to transact, making the claim that the freedom to transact is like the meta right. And then he makes a tweet thread about this. So skipping into number 2, Punk 6529 makes the assumption that we are in agreement that constitutional democracies are a good form of government, or at least better than all the other ones that we've been had before. And he says he's making the following assumptions: that people, all listeners readers believe that people have the fundamental rights to speech, assembly, religion, and so on. People are innocent until proven guilty. The state cannot punish people without due process. And then he goes, he says, if you disagree with those principles, we diverge there, so you can stop reading. But if you do agree with those principles, he makes the claim that freedom of speech might require such activities like a website, a pamphlet, an advertisement, paying a graphic designer, traveling to a different location, all of which cost money. Freedom of assembly might require such activities like taking a train to Washington, D.C., booking a hotel room, hiring a taxi, buying a hot dog while you assemble, which costs money. Freedom of religion might require activities like renting a space or facilities, paying the salaries of religious officials, buying food and consumables, all of which cost money. So basically, he's saying that you cannot have any of the rights that Western liberal democracies offer you if they're also freezing your bank accounts. Because if they're freezing your bank accounts, they are silencing your ability to express your values upon the world. Money is a tool of expression of value. If I give you money for some reason, it's because I valued something that you did for me, and that is speech. I'm speaking to the world that I value this. And Punk 6529 says that if you can't transact, you don't have speech, which is a great take.
That's so right. Without the freedom to transact, you have no other constitutional rights. I think he's right on about that. Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, they all depend on that. And some people might say, okay, well then, if that's true, why weren't these things written in the Constitution? It's because, like, the framers of the Constitution, they didn't have the concept of custodial digital money in the way that we have it now. They had no concept of a nation state's ability to freeze funds, all the citizens, all the populace's funds, with the click of a button. So it didn't need to be protected at that time. It seems like it does now, and I think the example of Canada shows us why it needs to be protected exactly. Man.
Speaking of, I'm going to transition. You ready to transition?
That's it. Let's transition. Let's get out of this stuff. Let's get into NFTs.
Speaking of punks, as the only transition that we have here, there was a massive 104 CryptoPunk sale going through Sotheby's, but it got rugged by the owner. So 104 CryptoPunks were about to be auctioned. It became a very big deal. A lot of people, including some of the people that I know, actually went to Sotheby's to watch this 104 CryptoPunks get auctioned. And then the person selling the CryptoPunks, he just tweeted out, "Never mind, decided to hodl."
Oh, dude, was it all a prank from the beginning? Was this all a rug pull, planned rug pull?
Maybe, but the punk floor right now is kind of low at like 65 ETH. So maybe he's like saying, I'm going to sell at a different time.
He just got cold feet?
Maybe he got cold feet. He's like, well, this isn't worth it.
That's a pretty big batch.
That's a big batch of CryptoPunks. So like, 104 times the 65 floor.
There it is. Never mind.
6,700 Ether. and maybe round up a little bit higher. Maybe it would have gone for 10,000 if you would assume some rares are in there. But yeah, the guy just goes, never mind, decided to hodl. Just run all of Sotheby's.
Yeah, that's how quickly things can change.
Right.
Let's talk about this. This is a new NFT on the scene. Invisible Friends.
Yeah, Invisible Friends. They're minting. Minting went live not too long ago, or as of very recently. They have not revealed them, so people just have like their tokens without it being revealed. They were minted. The mint price was a quarter of an ETH, which is insanely high versus other mint prices. Typical mint prices are somewhere between like 0.2 to 0.8 ish. This one's coming at a quarter of an ETH. The floor on these things immediately rocketed to 12. Which is nuts. And there was also a specific golden custom Invisible Friends. They're actually pretty cool as far as NFTs goes. I'm not sure if they're 12 ETH cool. I'm pretty sure they're not cool as 12 ETH. But they're all just like characters that don't have bodies but only have clothes. Kind of interesting about the metaverse, right? Because like you can pick your clothes, but you can't pick your body, so you can put your head in there. I don't know. Anyways, if you keep on scrolling down, there's like this all golden Invisible Friend that sold for $1.3 million going to charity. 496.69 Ether in good fashion. And that finished up yesterday. So that's all being donated to charity. Very big drop, very big mint drop. Yeah, Invisible Friends like went from minting to blue chip NFT like that. We'll see if the floor holds. We'll see.
Was there some controversy about this in the NFT community? I think I saw some people upset about this. Was there a lot of marketing that went into this?
Yeah, so there was this grueling whitelist that was happening where like people were just grinding in the Discord, and so apparently the meta for these NFTs drops these days is you have to become a really like ecosystem participant in the Discord. So you got to like send chats and engage with others and like level up in the
exhausting.
Discord, and it's super. And in order to get on the whitelist, and so people are like spending time out of their day to just be active Discord members, like getting like fake pseudo engagement in Discord just so they could climb the whitelist.
They're just trying to game the system, right?
Well, yeah, but everyone's doing it, right? Yeah. They're all just like, hey man, like I'm in the Discord too. How's your day going? Like I'm an active community member. Like we're all here because we're all friends.
No,
yeah,
thanks.
Yeah, right. Like sounds awful.
All right. Well, speaking of sounds awful, nice. What's going on in China with respect to cryptocurrency crackdowns is continuing. So one of China's provinces just implemented punitive electricity prices for crypto mining. So they already made it illegal. There's still some crypto mining going on in some provinces in China. Now they're cracking down on it more. This also caught my attention, David. So this is in China. China is now sending people to jail, at least the threat of jail, if you raise funds using crypto.
Sick.
ICO,
sick.
Fundraise, issue a token, raise funds of any kind. You could go to jail according to China's legal system. It's like small amounts here. We're not talking about raising millions of dollars. We're talking about raising over $80,000, raising over $16,000. These are large amounts.
We would have gone to jail for selling our shirts, Ryan.
You go directly to jail.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Sweet.
What is happening?
At this
right?
point, I'm just used to it. Like, can I just lock me up now? Just take me away. Like it's coming.
Look, man, this is happening so fast. Like it's just a whirlwind. And of course, sometimes when it's in China, we can kind of ignore it. But then when it blends in and we have events like Canada and then...
Remember Ryan, when I got pepper sprayed for protesting in the Black Lives Matter riots this last summer, and then like when I went back home and I like got the pepper spray off of me, I was like, oh snap! I just got pepper sprayed by nation state police. I'm also a very very pro crypto person. Those are two things that are anti nation state. Every single time it's like, oh, it's getting a little closer to home.
Yeah. 2020s are going to be interesting, guys. We will be back with the takes and of course what we're excited about. It can be hard to find something to be excited about, but I got something. We'll do that right after we talk about the sponsors that made this episode possible.
The Layer 2 era is upon us. Ethereum's Layer 2 ecosystem is growing every day, and we need L2 bridges to be fast and efficient in order to live a Layer 2 life. Across is the fastest and cheapest and most secure cross-chain bridge. With Across, you don't have to worry about the long wait times or high fees to get your assets back to the Layer 1. Assets are bridged and available for use almost instantaneously. Across's bridges are powered by UMA's optimistic Oracle to securely transfer tokens from Layer 2 back to Ethereum. Across is critical ecosystem infrastructure, and ownership is being handed over to the community. You can be a part of this story of Across by joining the Discord and becoming a co-founder and helping to design the Fair launch. of Across. If you want to bridge your assets quickly and securely, go to across.to to bridge your assets between ETH, Optimism, Arbitrum, or Boba networks. Bankless is proud to be sponsored by Uniswap. Uniswap is a new paradigm in asset exchange infrastructure. Instead of a cumbersome order book system where trades are matched with other humans, Uniswap is an autonomous piece of software on Ethereum that lets you trade any token at the current market price. No human counterparties or centralized intermediaries, just autonomous code on Ethereum. Input the token you want to sell and receive the token you want to buy. The Uniswap Grants program is accepting applications for grants. Do you have something of value that you think you want to contribute to the Uniswap ecosystem? No matter how big or small your idea is, you can apply for a uni grant at uniswapgrants.org and help steer Uniswap in the direction that you think it should go. Thank you, Uniswap, for sponsoring Bankless. So, you've got some money and you want to spend.
You, me, shopping now, bro.
When you should be saving.
You'll never buy a house at this rate.
But what if you could spend and save at the same time? For the enlightened kind with inquiring minds, a new world awaits. Set yourself free with completely flexible, self-repaying loan technology. Supported on desktop and mobile, seize the power of ALCHEMIX, allowing you to spend and save at the same time. Leverage your wealth without the risk of liquidation. Take out a loan that repays itself.
Yes, 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 yes.
What was once inconceivable is now within your grasp.
Are you winning some?
All right, guys, we are back with the takes of the week. This first one from Vitalik. What's Vitalik saying here, David?
Reminder, Ethereum's neutral, but I am not. Vitalik is a person with opinions. Ethereum responds to the world around it. These are different things. But basically, this is coming off. I'm pretty sure this is in reference to Ukraine, although it also could have been Canada. It's definitely Ukraine. Basically saying that Vitalik has opinions about things.
This is his opinion on Ukraine and Russia. You can click translate. And he is very upset by Putin's decision to ban the possibility of a peaceful solution. That is his personal opinion. But of course, Ethereum is neutral to all of that. Good separation there and a good principle, I think. What's this one?
This take is completely different from anything. Mark Balin says, old world model, never mix business and friendships. New world model, make money online with your friends. I like the new world way better. It's way more fun like that. It's like that Zelda meme, like, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this being a friend.
I do think this is a complete contrast from the old world. That would have been good traditional advice, say 20, 30 years from now. But you're right. It's way more fun making money with your friends. And that's exactly what crypto allows you to do. What's this next take?
Okay, so is this the line goes up guy?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the line goes up guy.
Picture of the line goes up guy we're looking at.
So Icebergy looked.
By the way, line goes up for people who don't know. It's a very anti-NFT, hour and 30 minutes show, basically focusing on the most pessimistic takes you can think of NFTs. Some accurate, but also very one-sided in that the lens was just everything bad I can think of about NFTs.
Yes, right. And it got like 4 million views on YouTube. And so all of the anti-NFT hater energy got directed into this video to like promote it. It's like, this is why I'm mad. Okay, here's the tweet. Here's the take. The anti-NFT YouTube guy, the line goes up guy, has Funko Pops on his shelf during an interview. For those that don't know, Ryan, we might have to go find, can you just like Google Funko Pops?
Yeah, so I didn't know what they were, so I pulled this up. So I had no idea what a Funko Pop is, but it looks like it's some kind of like collectible. I think I've seen these.
Yeah, there's these little like cute little figurine collectibles for all
physical collectibles.
Physical collectibles.
Physical NFTs.
They're basically Beanie Babies. They have no verifiability of scarcity. They just they make them for Star Wars. Here's one for Squid Games.
Are they expensive like that too? Like do you
I think so. I don't know how much. I think maybe the rare ones go for hundreds of dollars. They're literally just not digital NFTs. And the guy that's had the $4 million video about how NFTs are bad has Funko Pops. No utility. Like, are they really all that cute? He's got one on his shelf during an interview. It's like the irony is just off the charts.
I love it. My collectible's good, your collectible's bad is basically what it comes down to.
It's the same thing. Hey, but he can't even audit the supply of how many of those of his collectibles exist.
Yeah, we can. We just, right click and go figure it out on Etherscan. But this take is related. This is your take.
Highly related.
I'll read it out and then you explain it. Crypto haters only see where the puck currently is. You go on to say, NFT haters don't see the culture it's going to create. Crypto gaming haters don't see how real it's going to make our games. Canadian convoy haters don't see how it's going to be them next. If there's one thing we know, it's that experimentation and iteration is extremely rapid in this industry. The puck is moving so fast, and the entire crypto industry facepalms when we have to engage with people that don't see it.
The people in the crypto industry all have an imagination for what the future could be. We are not in crypto for what it is right now. We are in crypto because we think it can be better, and we all want to be stewards of that future. And so when people come and say, like, crypto, it's just a bunch of pump and dump and scams, and we're like, yeah, but like, it's not what the kernel of it is. It's not what the core of it is. It's just what the manifestation of it is at this current point. People in crypto have imaginations. People that hate on crypto can't figure out how to imagine what it could be or what a future better world. So that's a dividing line that I've noticed.
I totally agree. It's all about vision, and a lot of the arguments are arguments of timeline. It's like, I'll be the first to admit, crypto kind of sucks now.
Oh yeah,
in lots of ways. It sucks.
time.
Crypto sucks now, but it sucked worse last year, and 2 years ago it was
Sucked
even worse.
Way harder. Yeah.
And like, it's just getting better and better is the point. So go extrapolate that 10 years and look at the values embodied in the system. Look at the end state, what it's going to deliver. And that's where you start to see the potential. But I think people who don't look at it closely just get stuck in the here and now. It's like this NFTs are all scams. We're back in 2017. All ICOs, all tokens are scams. Remember? Now we got Sequoia pouring $600 million in a token fund. This last one, this is from an article you wrote. Crypto is here to set us free. Why is it here to set us free, David?
Okay, so this is taking the longest time horizon possible about crypto and trying to instill the vision of what these whole Web3 things are. So yeah, this is a great graphic to start, where I make the claim that Web2 and TradFi suck value inwards towards the center, where Web3 and DeFi push value out towards the periphery, towards the margins. The reason why they have the ability to do that in the first place is because we have private keys, as in we actually have a location, an address to actually send money to. And when our protocols like Twitter, Facebook, they can't send us money because they're not crypto protocols. They're just normal protocols. They're platforms. But crypto protocols have the ability to granularly issue money and assets to the individual users. And that's the new vector that our Web3 DeFi protocols have to compete on. Like this is the new threshold. This is the new.
It's like how many people get your airdrop. That's a competitive advantage.
How many people love your protocol, and how do you buy, and how best and most sustainably can we buy people's love? And so I make the claim that, like, once upon a time, we domesticated plants, and we went from the era of accidentally picking a poisonous mushroom to the era agricultural revolution, where the population exploded. Also, like, I say the line like, so we once domesticated wolves to become dogs, and so too will we domesticate our protocols to treat us with love and affection. And so this is the take here. It's a longer article. I've read it. It's on the Bankless newsletter. It's also available on the YouTube. And if you are somebody that has imagination and want to see what my imagination looks like when crypto comes to its end game, it's that crypto's not here to make you rich. It's not here to support pump and dumps and scams. It's here to set you free.
That's a great line. And you also talk about how crypto is a multi-stage rocket. We're still in phase one, which is it's all about financial incentives. And that's the negative that people see. It's like it's all kind of scams and pump and dumps, and it's just people talking about number go up. But phase two is more sovereignty, more freedom. And that's what you mean, I think. That's really cool. All right, David, can you find something this week to be excited about? I know it's a little more challenging than usual, but what are you excited about this week?
Tomorrow, or actually it might be today, actually. It might be tomorrow. Elden Ring comes out, Ryan, which is part of the Dark Souls video game series. And if there's one video game that I really, really like, it's the Dark Souls series. So Elden Ring comes out tomorrow, and it's going to be it's a perfect timing. I need some escapism, and there ain't no crypto in it, so I get to ignore that too.
No NFTs have invaded?
That's exactly right. Ain't no NFTs yet in Elden Ring. And so I'm going to be playing Elden Ring a lot this coming weekend for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. You got to get your mind off things sometimes. Got to have some relaxation for sure.
What are you excited about, Ryan?
I'm really excited about a post I saw written by a guy that I've been following for a while, David Hannemeyer Hansen. If you're in the developer space, you might know him as the creator of Ruby on Rails. Anyway, he wrote this post. He's been very vocally skeptical about crypto. I might say a crypto critic or a crypto hater. He wrote this post earlier this week called "I Was Wrong. We Need Crypto." Okay. And the reason he was skeptical about crypto, and he changed his mind on that, but the reason he was skeptical, I think a lot of people can relate to outside of crypto. He didn't vibe with the culture, the whole laser eyes thing, that wasn't his vibe. The energy consumption around Bitcoin, right? Again, didn't feel sustainable, not his vibe. Transaction fees, the pump and dumps, the obvious frauds, some of the fake decentralization, right? There's a whole list of things you could be mad about with crypto. And that's why he stayed away from it. He didn't find out it was worth exploring. But he changed his mind. And the reason he changed his mind was the Canadian actions of the Canadian government to freeze bank accounts of protesters. Now, he said this: "Beyond all these very real problems and challenges, my bigger beef was actually fueled by a lack of imagination." He didn't think that in the Western world, anyway, where we weren't under authoritarian regimes, that we would actually need a free monetary system. Kind of like the banking system works good enough. Where's the 5x improvement? Where's the 10x improvement? But the protests in Canada and the bank freezing completely changed his mind, which is, I don't want to say that's cool to see, because it's unfortunate that this is what it takes to change people's minds. But I do think, back to that statement, that this is like 1,000 Super Bowl ads. When you actually see, when funds are actually taken away from you in your country, I mean, the people of Argentina, for instance, they don't have to be convinced about crypto or DeFi. Like, they've lived through eras of banks confiscating their funds. Now we're starting to see this in Western countries, and people are getting it that way. Anyway, exciting for me to kind of read this post and to see someone who is initially resistant to it start to understand why we've been talking about the things we've been talking to. And also exciting because I just shot him an email a couple days ago and I was like, "Hey, DHH, want to come on Bankless and talk about this?" And again, he's someone who's writing I followed for a while. He's written some books that I've read as well. And he's like, "Yeah, sure, let's talk about it." So he's coming on the podcast next week. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about hearing the story of a crypto critic change his mind and what went into the thought process there.
We start off that podcast with "I told you so," right?
No. I want him to tell himself so, which is what he did in this post.
This is the same exact thing that we were talking about with, like, people who have imaginations get it. Like, it's easy for them to imagine, oh, maybe the United States might turn authoritarian one day. Like, that might be a possibility. This is the exact same energy.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. All right, David, let's close this out. Meme of the week. What are we looking at?
This is not a funny one, but okay, it is a little bit funny. Okay, so this is the unofficial ETH Denver POAP, which is a positive COVID test.
Oh God! Is that what happened in ETH Denver? A lot of people got COVID.
So the Arjun Bhuptani of Connext, he made a poll, said, "Did you get COVID at ETH Denver?" 13% said yes, 20% said no. The rest were results. So I don't know, what's that ratio? 13 to 20. It's like, very roughly almost half. Like, less than half, but almost half of people got COVID at ETH Denver. Like, I've taken 2 COVID tests now and both came back negative, but I have COVID symptoms. At this point, it's just a fucking common cold, excuse my language. But also at the same time, like, everyone kind of
especially because you've been like vaccinated multiple times and you've already had it.
Twice, yeah. But also at the same time, we recently had a Super Bowl that had like 100,000 people in the stadium without masks. Then we had ETH Denver with 15,000 people who all know COVID exists. And so, like, I'm kind of in the pro camp of just like, is this over yet or what? Because, like, if you look at the behaviors of people, they are going to ETH Denver kind of knowing that they're going to get COVID, and then they're coming out with it. Like, no, there's no news stories about this. Remember in Bitcoin Miami 2021, there was like a massive news cycle story about like how it's a super spreader event.
Different time, yeah.
Well, this had way more people getting COVID, but no one cares about it anymore. And so, like, can we call this thing, like, can we wrap this thing up? In my opinion,
I do think things are changing. Hey, meme of the weeks are supposed to be funny though, not all serious, David.
It is pretty funny. Sorry.
Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging with us. Of course, none of this has been financial advice. Bitcoin is risky.
Or geopolitics advice.
It's definitely not geopolitics advice. All of these things are risky. You could lose what you put in, but we are headed west This is the frontier. It's not for everyone, but we're glad you're with us on the Bankless journey. Thanks a lot.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, head over to Bankless HQ right now to develop your crypto investing skills and learn how to free yourself from banks and gain your financial independence. We recommend joining our daily newsletter, podcast, and community as a Bankless Premium subscriber to get the most out of your Bankless experience. You'll get access to our market analysis, our alpha leaks, and exclusive content, and even the Bankless token for airdrops, raffles, and unlocks. If you're interested in crypto, the Bankless community is where you want to be. Click the link in the description to become a Bankless Premium subscriber today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for in-depth interviews with industry leaders, Ask Me Anythings, and weekly roll-ups where we summarize the week in crypto and other fantastic content. Thanks everyone for watching and being on the journey as we build out the Bankless Nation.